Life is a series of unscripted experiences that forge us into unique individuals. These are the experiences and stories of those who possess the will, beliefs, and fortitude required to overcome obstacles, pursue their passions, and achieve success. Welcome to the HawkCast with your host, AJ Hawk.
Here he is. Canadian sensation, Jay Onrait. Did I pronounce your last name right, Jay?
Oh, it's actually Onrait. It's like I was
gonna say Onrait. I thought it was some weird French Canadian pronouncement.
Yeah, it is French, and I was on a podcast the other day, and the guy was saying Onrait, but it's Onrait. It's one of those names that doesn't. I mean, it's not like Hawk, where it's like a cool last name and everybody can get into. Like you have the cool. I remember when you were drafted and thinking like that guy's got the coolest fucking name of all time. Like growing up, did you know how cool your last name was? Were you like, thanks, mom and dad, thanks my great ancestors for giving me the coolest name ever?
Well, it's funny because that's been a topic that's been brought up the last couple episodes I've had on here. People ask me about it, and no, I mean it's like if that's what your name was your whole life, you have no idea. You just
right.
That's just what you do. But
yeah,
Onrait.
Yeah, Onrait. Yeah.
See, I've heard it said on TV 5,000 times, but that's why I like it. It's an organic show, man. I could have easily asked you this before I hit record.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So there we go. Yeah, you got to put it all out there, man. So right now, can you say like when are you guys on the air? What is your show called? It seems like you guys have bounced around since you got to FS1 in 2013.
You're right, AJ. It's been an interesting ride. Our show is Fox Sports Live, and it's always been Fox Sports Live, but there have been three sort of incarnations of the show. The first one was almost a hybrid between a talk show and a highlight show. Dan and I, my co-anchor Dan O'Toole and I, we hosted SportsCentre in Canada. Really popular up there. We're doing great up there. And they brought us down to do the highlight portion of that show. The other portion of the show was, athletes, Gary Payton, Donovan McNabb, Andy Roddick chatting about sports of the day. It didn't really work out, unfortunately, because it was almost like two shows in one. And as you know, it's hard enough to get anyone to just focus on one show, much less a show that seems like two shows in one. So then they tried a show that was just Dan and I doing highlights. Thought it was doing pretty well. And now they've tried this show that we're currently doing, which is almost like if you ever watched The Soup with Joel McHale, now our show, and you were on our show, you were kind enough to be a guest, is sort of like The Soup for sports with a guest every day. And it's going pretty well. It's on at 11 o'clock Eastern every night on FS1. And so far we're liking it. It's like people have been trying to merge comedy and sports forever, AJ. Norm Macdonald tried to do a show on Comedy Central. The Onion tried to do a show. Jay Moore tried to do a show. And it's always really hard because for several reasons, but I think the biggest reason is that sports networks are in business with the leagues. And there's only so far you can go. Ask Bill Simmons, right? There's only so far you can criticize people like Roger Goodell before maybe it comes back to bite you in the ass. So we're trying to walk that line. But so far, the show's going pretty good.
So, like, how do you find that line? Do you get memos after shows, like nightly when you got to Fox, or even up at TSN in Canada? Did you get notes from people saying, "Hey, you can't talk about that"?
Yeah, it's a great question. Our producer from Canada came down to LA with us, producer Tim, we call him, and he is the guy whose main job is to keep us from getting fired. He's the guy who, if we come up with an idea and say, "Why don't we do this? Why don't we criticize Adam Silver for this or that?" He's the one who says, you know what, if you guys want to have a show tomorrow, we're not going to do that bit. Let's figure out a way to do it a little bit more subtly or a little bit softer so that we're not in trouble with leagues. So he's the guy who kind of keeps us out of trouble in that sense. But when we started up in Canada, the funny thing is we would know almost after we'd finish a show. So we do SportsCentre at night. We do some bit where we, criticize maybe the NHL commissioner, Gary Bettman, because as you probably have guessed, our show in Canada was like, if it was an hour-long show, it would be like 48 minutes of hockey and then maybe 12 minutes of something else. Yeah. So we get a call the next day from our boss, like, dial it back a little bit, and eventually we found that happy medium where I think we are now, where we're goofy and we're not geniuses, but we're also not totally stupid. We know the line to walk now, and I think we kind of figured it out.
Do you have like a comedy background or a sketch background?
I did stand up in college. I was terrible at it. I think you can see it on YouTube, and the standard, amateur nights and all that. But the thing I found about the comedy clubs back then is that the comedians were so depressing. Like, I wasn't running into like happy-go-lucky guys like Ray Romano. I was running into all these career comedians who were just like, oh man, it's a long slog and you're on the road and you're lonely. And they just made the whole business sound awful, So I was probably just hanging around at the wrong comedy clubs. I just got out of it. But I always loved sports, and I always loved late night talk shows like the original Letterman show on NBC. And I just wanted to combine those things. I love highlight shows as a kid. Growing up, I loved NFL Primetime with Berman and Jackson, and just thought those shows were so fun. You could get it's sort of like today, you can get information anywhere now, especially now, right? You can get highlights on your phone, on your tablet, on your laptop. To me, it's the personalities. If people are listening or watching this podcast, they're doing it because they like you, AJ, as a personality. Because as we both know, we both listen to a ton of podcasts. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Yes. So it's all about selling yourself as a personality and just being yourself. So I think the thing that helped me was I wanted to combine the two things, but also I didn't want to be a broadcaster with a broadcaster voice, because A, I'm not a good enough broadcaster, and B, I just don't like broadcasters like that. I like people who are genuine, who are themselves, maybe even a little flawed, like Letterman was. He wasn't the best human being on the planet, but he was a genuine guy, right? So that's probably the biggest influence on me for sure, is old Letterman stuff.
I think you hit on it right there with Letterman. I remember when he had the whole like intern scandal, whatever it was, where he didn't do anything illegal. He was just, I guess he was having an affair or something, allegedly. I don't know if I have to say that for trying to get sued, but it was public, and why he was married, and he acknowledged it, but he just said, hey, this is a matter between my wife and I've made a mistake.
He was amazing. That was one of the most amazing moments I've ever seen on TV, because as he started to tell the story, AJ, you could tell the audience was like, is this a bit? Like, is this a comedy bit, or is he being serious? Like, is he fucking with us, or is he being serious here? What is going on? And then, of course, you realize, no, he's like just letting it all hang out here. And like, there's a ransom letter, and he gets his lawyer involved. That was a crazy story. But yeah, I mean, he was essentially, like a lot of comedians, a very flawed person in his personal life, but a brilliant guy on screen. That's for sure.
Did you watch Johnny Carson growing up at all?
I did. I'm glad you asked me about that. I mean, to me, Johnny Carson, like, he was so slick, right? I mean, the guy was like, he was from the Midwest, and I think that's one of the reasons he appealed to so many Americans, and in Canada, he was just as huge as well. I mean, he was just a super likable human being, and so slick and so polished. But then you read about Johnny and in his personal life. I mean, he was a hound for the ladies. Like, he was crazy. So, it just goes to show you never know, right? But one of the reasons I like Letterman is, as much as I liked Johnny Carson growing up, Letterman was like the anti-Johnny Carson. Like, everything was slick, and he'd have Don Rickles on, and everyone would be so polished. And Letterman would come out and send his stage manager to the World Series, right? And have him interview, like, Reggie Jackson or whatever. And it was just like so bizarre, it was like, what is this guy doing? But he was essentially breaking the fourth wall down, right? He wanted it to not feel like TV. He wanted to let the audience in. And I think so much of TV is like that now. And so many people in TV owe a lot of what they do creatively to that guy.
Yeah, Carson was before my time. I've seen a lot of clips on him just because I watched the documentary that was on, they did on him, and oh my goodness, I had no idea about his whole story and growing up and the multiple marriages, and I guess his mom was terrible to him, and he could never win her approval, and he's like 60 years old or however old, 50 years old, and he comes off the stage at the Tonight Show, and his mom tells him like it was an average show or it wasn't good, and he like crushes him.
It's amazing to think about a guy like that who is, I mean, and think about it, like today we have all these amazing shows like Kimmel and Colbert and all that. Johnny was the one guy at that time, right? At late night. Like, imagine all those guys being condensed into one human being, and all of America's watching him before the internet existed, 3 channels, right? So he's such a huge star. And even as big of a star as he was, his mom criticizing him, just a classic example, right? Our moms, right, could always get to us. that rattled him. That shook him, and that obviously affected him as a human being his whole life. It's pretty amazing to see how that could happen to a big star like that.
Now, when you said going back, you said you liked Letterman back in his NBC days. Now,
Yeah.
I know Letterman from CBS. Was the show different back then?
It was like it was more raw. It was definitely less money put into the production, and he was just more of a kind of a DGAF kind of guy, right? He was just like, I don't care, I'm on at 12:30. You have to understand too, there wasn't anyone against him either. Like, it was sort of the first 12:30 show, and he was just doing stuff that nobody on TV was doing, and it was like, you know how you get into a band, maybe you're into a band that no one else is into, and you're like, this is like a cool thing that I'm into. This belongs to me. This is something I know about. And if you meet someone else who's into that band, you're like, dude, how great is that band, right? It's like a cult thing. It feels so good. That's what it was like to watch that old Letterman show. You'd go to school the next day because it was on too late to watch. For me, I was like going to junior high or whatever. But I would tape it on the old VCR. I would set the VCR to tape, get home from school, rush home from school, plop it in the machine, play it. And it was just like, all my friends loved it. It was just one of those things. It was so cool to be into that show back then. It's all over YouTube. It's definitely worth watching. And it's one of those things where I watch it on YouTube and I'm like, will anyone get this now? Like, will this not seem innovative or cool now? Maybe not, but it was definitely influential on me at the time. That's for sure.
Who do you think is doing the best job now, or the most entertaining on all the late night shows?
I love that question. They're all so different. It's almost like, back then when you only had Carson and Letterman, you either liked them or you didn't. Now there's so many shows you can really pick and choose based on your, what you want from a show. So for me, I just think Fallon his interviews aren't great. He's kind of too earnest and he doesn't really care. But man, what a talent. The guy's just the talent coming out of his pores. The guy can do so many different things and he's so talented. Colbert, I think, is brilliant too. The new show, it's almost like he's trying too hard to do too many things. I love the old Colbert Report. I remember I went with my wife to New York to watch him tape it in person, and it was an amazing experience because he's a guy who has, he comes from a stage background, like a sketch comedy background, not like a stand-up background. So he would screw up in the live taping and just laugh it off and ad-lib something funnier. And I was like, man, this guy's in a studio with 200 people watching him, and nothing is phasing this guy. He's just ad-libbing, going with it. And you could see why CBS bet on him so heavily, and I'm sure he'll figure it out. I was never a huge Kimmel guy, but I know he's talented. But it's funny to see like James Corden now come along on CBS and kind of like a British Fallon, right? Like a guy who could sing and dance, and this carpool karaoke thing is taken off. But I have a question for you. Have you seen anything from James Corden other than carpool karaoke?
I have not, and I've only watched carpool karaoke on YouTube for my kid, and I watch it with my kids because we all love it.
And that's the thing. That's TV now. That's a late night show now. Like, who among us is staying up till 12:30 and watching an entire hour of James Corden, watching the interview?
Who is watching TV live?
Right.
Who's watching commercials? Let's be real.
No, you're right. Who's sitting through commercials? So it's interesting how, people are like, I love James Corden, and I think he's great too. But really, the only thing people have seen is that carpool karaoke bit. I mean, I don't know if anyone knows what else has happened. He's got a brilliant guy, Reggie Watts, who's a hilarious comedian. He has him as his band leader. I don't know if half the people realize he's on the show. It's so, yeah, TV's definitely changed. That's for sure. No question.
Man, you're right. I didn't even think about that. And tonight or this afternoon while I was sitting down and I was getting my kids lunch, I turned on the latest carpool karaoke and it was Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah, right.
And they all like took their shirt off and James Corden has his shirt off. It's just awesome. Like, it was hilarious, man. And he wrestled in the front yard with Anthony Kiedis of some random house, supposedly random, I don't know, but it was hilarious. But then now that you asked me that, I don't think I've never seen his opening monologue. I've never seen anything but that.
Like, and I guess the logic is, well, if you like the carpool karaoke bits, like from CBS's perspective, they're thinking, well, maybe then you'll check out the show. But no one really does that. Like, at least no one I know really says, you know what, I really like that carpool karaoke bit. I'm going to stay up till 12:30 and watch it. That's why Les Moonves, the president of CBS, has basically said overnight ratings, like ratings that are literally from the night before don't matter to him anymore. Because as you pointed out, nobody's watching TV live anymore. They might watch it on their DVR, a couple days later. So maybe ratings just don't mean what they used to in this day and age of new media.
I mean, I don't think they do. I don't know how it works as far as monetizing the situation, but all these late line shows now seem to be open to. They have their own YouTube channels, and they put their stuff out there. Before, they used to take everything down, and they wouldn't want their stuff going to YouTube. So I guess what they're making their ad money from YouTube and every different kind of platform.
That's it. I mean, it's the same as us. We're taking a clip when you were on our show. We'd cut clips up like that, put it out on Twitter, and there'd be a short ad that would run that you could skip after 3 seconds, just like YouTube, right? And then your clip would run with us. And that's just the way, it's like, that's why they don't call them TV shows or podcasts anymore. Everything is just content, right? That's the buzzword. Are you delivering content to these places like CBS and Fox and NBC? And can your content exist on multiple platforms? For example, Colin Cowherd, who we hired here at FS1, who used to be at ESPN, obviously, had a national radio show for us at FS1. He's the perfect personality because he can deliver content on the radio. He can deliver content as a podcast. And all that stuff exists as a 3-hour television show in the middle of the day when it's an easy show to produce. It's not expensive. The most expensive thing is Colin's a salary. Basically, it's him sitting at a desk, right? Like you are right now. That's the set. So guys like that, and maybe that's good news for you, AJ.
Yeah.
Guys who can provide content over multiple platforms are the ones who are probably going to be able to survive in this sort of new media world.
And I know now he just recently moved into the 6 p.m., I guess, primetime spot with Whitlock.
Yeah. With
their new show. Now, is that to go head to head with ESPN, with SportsCentre?
It is, yeah. Not so, as we all know, like Pardon the Interruption's been a huge success for years, and they're on at 5 Eastern or 5:30 Eastern, whatever. So they're not FS1. I don't think this is a secret, isn't going after those shows. They're going after SportsCentre because the logic is that SportsCentre highlight shows, people just aren't watching them like you and I did when we were growing up, and we didn't have our phones where we could just instantly grab those, that Cincinnati Bengals highlight with AJ in it. We didn't need to do it off our phone. In the past, you'd have to wait till 11 when primetime would come on or SportsCentre would come on. People don't have to do that anymore. So SportsCentre's ratings are trending downward, and that's sort of their logic that maybe instead of watching SportsCentre, maybe you'll turn over and watch a little more debate with Whitlock and Cowherd.
So it's I know I've heard it. It's personality driven now instead of just clips and highlights.
That's right, exactly. I mean, it's all about personality. You look at Fox News. What's the difference between Fox News and CNN? Well, if you're super on the right side of things, obviously ideologically you gravitate toward Fox News. But the other thing Fox News does, and by the way, I'm not defending or supporting anything they do or don't do. I'm just saying what they do well is promote personality. So all of their shows it's Bill O'Reilly, it's Sean Hannity, like it's Megyn Kelly. The shows aren't even shows anymore. They're just people, right? And if you like that person, you're going to gravitate toward that show. And that's what Fox News does terrifically well, and they've been hugely successful with it. So I think, in a way, that's sort of the format that FS1 is going with. And frankly, ESPN has for a long time, too. If you like First Take, that means you like Stephen A. and you like Skip. If you like PTI, you like Tony and Mike. It's all about, all these shows, let's be honest, it's two guys talking. So if you happen to like the guys, it's like podcasts. If you happen to like the guy doing the podcast, you're going to listen.
You're going to find him. You'll search for him.
Yeah.
Find him wherever he goes. And so Fox just hired Skip Bayless.
Yeah.
Now, when does he come over?
I don't exactly know the details of that one, but Skip's going to come over, and again, like, part of the problem we've had, AJ, is that people just can't find our channel. You know what I mean? Like they might come across it one night, but they need specific reasons to find it. So we've got this Copa America soccer tournament going on right now, and it's getting huge ratings. And you just realize, like, if we have something people want to watch, they will watch our channel. They'll find it. So, they're definitely betting on Skip, that enough people love what Skip does. And that he obviously has a lot of haters, but he has a lot of people who love to watch him too. The numbers bear that out on ESPN. So that's what they're banking on, that people will follow him over to our network and hopefully help our network grow a bit.
Is it public, like how many years your contract is with FS1?
Yeah, I have one more year left. We're up next July 2017.
Okay. Now you can work in some bargaining, do whatever, you can say whatever you want for bargaining reasons right now. Do you plan on staying there?
I would love to. I mean, in all seriousness, this sounds like a pro athlete who's like, hey, I want to stay in this city.
I love it. I just love it.
My family loves it here. It's great. But it's really true. I mean, everyone kind of jokes about LA and stuff like that. But the thing that my wife and I today, you'll love this story. My wife and I visited preschools we just had a daughter, and we visited preschools for the very first time today. And I said to my wife as we're walking through this preschool, I'm like, this is like a Saturday Night Live sketch of what LA preschool would be like. So we're walking through, and at one point, the lady says, this is the art room, and this month is Banksy month. And the kids are learning graffiti. I'm like, only in LA would this actually happen and they be actually serious about this kind of thing. It's it's an awesome place to live because it's kind of a parody. It's exactly what you think it is. But the people here are exceptionally nice. And I don't know if it's the constant sunshine or what, but that's the biggest thing that we've taken away from living in this city. So we'd love to stay, and we love the show too. Like, we like what we're doing. It's different. And we also knew that the other thing is, I think sometimes people, when you launch a new network, people want it to instantly be great right away. And the Fox way is come out and, come out swinging and say you're going to take down the big guy right away. But we've done this for long enough that we just knew that wasn't going to happen. People have been watching ESPN for 30 years. It's a part of people's lives in America. You walk through airports, you go to your favorite sports bar, it's on all the TVs. We can't expect the entire country to instantly switch right off the bat. So I think it's more of a gradual process. Hopefully we're part of that process. Was that a diplomatic enough answer, AJ? What do you think?
That was perfect. And for the record, when I called you, you had like 3 or 4 other networks that are begging to get you once your contract is up. So for the record, so your bosses know that. I could barely even talk to you because you had execs from NBC, CBS, everywhere coming at you.
Yeah, it's like being the hottest girl on prom night. Like, it's something we want everyone to be happy, but ultimately we're going to have to choose someone. So I guess it ultimately will come down to who makes the best offer and what's best for my family. That's my favorite thing that athletes say. Bring it back to the family, because no one can question that, right? You can say it about yourself, like, I want to live here. But if you bring the family into it, then no one can ever question you.
And what if guys don't really what if they're 24 years old? They don't have a wife and kids or anything. I'm like, well, what family are we talking about? Your parents that live 3,000 miles away? Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, they have no leverage. Everyone can see right through that. Yeah. Or,
what's a great one that I've realized is when people say, like, if they're a junior in college, let's say, for football, and like, well, I want to come back for my senior year because I want to get my degree. I want to graduate. Guess what? None of those guys graduate. They come back for one more quarter. You come back, they go to school during their senior season, which is done in December, and trust me, once that senior season is over, bam, they drop out and you go work out for the combine to get ready.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing about the whole system that's fascinating and flawed. And when you talk about NCAA athletes getting paid, especially football players, and the argument against it is, well, they're getting an education for free that a lot of Americans aren't. And on paper, that makes perfect sense. But as you know better than anyone, the reality is a little bit different.
Yeah, they're going to have to figure something out eventually here with I don't know what. I mean, they're not going to ever pay football players or college football players a ton of money, which they shouldn't. I don't know, man. I don't know what the answer is, but that made me think of something. So, grew up in Canada, Toronto, correct?
I actually grew up on the prairie. It's interesting. I grew up on the Canadian prairies. So kind of, if you go directly north of Montana, and Alberta is where I grew up, in a little town north of Edmonton, a little farm town of about 2,000 people. We didn't have a Banksy month in our preschool, AJ.
It's shocking to me.
Yeah.
Shocking. So I'm always curious, what the hell is how does healthcare work up there? I'm not trying to turn this political, but I always want to know. I have buddies that played in the CFL.
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I was lucky enough my team was the Edmonton Eskimos, and I was lucky enough when I was a little kid, Warren Moon was the quarterback of the team, and it was phenomenal. This guy was just a stud, and they won 5 Grey Cups in a row, and it was the greatest thing ever. And but as far as the healthcare thing, it's really fascinating because the way I try to explain it to people down here at Fox, because everyone asks that question, is imagine the police and fire department in whatever town you live in. If they came to if your house is on fire, the police department came to your door and put the fire out, obviously you'd be very grateful and you'd be happy, but you're not getting out your wallet and giving, that's part of what we pay taxes for, right? That's part of the whole, the services that we get for our taxes. In Canada, healthcare just happens to be included in those services. So it's like the police, it's the fire department. And when you're born, you are kind of a part of this group of Canadians that gets everything paid for. And for Canadians, it's, it's just sort of something that I think it's less about socialism and more just about taking care of your fellow citizens, essentially. I mean, the concept for us of a woman 9 months pregnant going to emergency room and not being able to come in and have her baby is just so mind-boggling to us that we just can't kind of fathom it. So is our system flawed up there? Big time. I mean, there's, it's like anywhere there's weights. Nothing's perfect. The big difference I find with the American system is if I tear my ACL and I need to have surgery, hey, if I have a good insurance provider and I'm with a good doctor, I'm probably having that surgery that week. In Canada, there are just not enough doctors, right? I mean, we just don't have enough of a population, and everything's free, so you gotta wait. So it's like anything. That ACL surgery, you might have to wait a couple months for that. So that's the biggest flaw in it. Things don't happen right away, but ultimately, if you have a family or a loved one who's dying of cancer, I'm blown away down here. I hear about people, great musicians and stuff like that who don't have health care, who can't afford to take care of themselves. If they've got cancer, they can't afford the chemotherapy treatments. In Canada, that's a non-existent problem. You just know that if you get seriously ill, that you're just going to go for treatment, and that's as simple as that.
Now, how do the taxes work? Like, what is the rate super high?
Yeah, it's funny. When I moved I think it's high depending on what state you live in. So when I moved to California, I remember thinking, all right, well, no more healthcare coming out of my taxes. I guess I'm going to be getting way more. No, it didn't happen. For whatever reason, I think my taxes here are higher than they were in Canada. So I'm not exactly sure how that works. But yeah, I think the tax rate generally is higher up there. But definitely, like I said, not much higher than living here in California. That's for sure.
Okay. I always was, it was very confusing because I would have friends that played in the CFL, and I would hear stories kind of like that where they said, not them personally, but an equipment manager had been limping around for 3 or 4 months because he had a torn ACL and he couldn't get in even for an MRI. He had to wait a little while. Yeah.
There's just not enough facilities up there. It's a small country. Put it this way, there are more people in California than there are in Canada. There are only 35 million people in Canada. So, as much as the system is great in terms of the fact that all your loved ones will be cared for eventually, it might not happen right away. We had a what we call a premier, essentially governor of one of our provinces. It's a funny story, and he had to have knee surgery, but he was a wealthy guy, so he just came down to the States and did it. Just paid for it and just did it on his own. He got in a whole shitload of trouble for that. So lots of Canadians will do that. If they've got the money, they'll just come down if they don't feel like waiting. But that's another kind of whole contentious issue with healthcare that everyone has.
So is there no way in Canada to get bumped to the top of the list if you have some cash or anything?
No, cash doesn't work. They say, like, for example, if you go to an emergency room, you're supposed to, like, everyone always jokes, like, pretend you got shot, say you got shot, but you can't say, because if you say, what, I'm in the emergency room, but I just slipped and fell and I'm pretty sure I have a torn ACL, they'll be like, all right, just hang tight. We'll see you in 5 hours or something like that. There are some epic waits in the waiting rooms up there. So the system is definitely flawed, but yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons. I wish there was a way we could figure out a nice happy medium, like maybe we pay a little bit, but get a little bit better service. You just hate to see people not be, I was amazed when I came here to Fox and some of the young people who just graduated college telling me, I'm still in my parents' healthcare. Like I'm lying and I'm saying I'm living at home because I can't afford healthcare. I'm like, this blew my mind. I'm like thinking lots of our writers and stuff don't have healthcare. I'm just like, what if something happens? It's as a Canadian, the concept of not having any healthcare is just really crazy to me.
Could you ever see yourself becoming a U.S. citizen?
I always say I totally could. My wife says we can't do it because we have a daughter, as I mentioned, and she was born here in LA, so she is an American citizen. But my wife is very adamant that if she ever becomes an elite female hockey player, which I think she will, because I think my wife's determined to make her this, that she will, in fact, play for Canada and not the U.S. And I always say, it's easy for you to say that, but our daughter will, if all goes well and we stay here at Fox, our daughter will grow up in LA, grow up in California. She will be American. She will feel American. Her friends will feel American. They will be American. She'll feel like an American person. We'll bring her back to Canada a lot, but Canada will be that crazy country up there that mom and dad come from, right? That's not her country. So basically my wife, I feel like is going to be in for a rude awakening when it comes time to select the 2030 Olympic women's hockey team.
So are you here on a work visa?
I just got my green card, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, Fox got us work visas. And then we just decided, let's get our green cards. Let's apply for them. It's a long process. You have to somehow prove that you are an extraordinary person, that you have abilities that go above and beyond that should allow the American government to. So
do you bring your reel? Sorry to interrupt you. You bring your reel from TV?
It's funny you say that. When we first came here, I went to the immigration lawyer from Fox and I said, could we get green cards? And they said, well, actually, there's a lot of national press about you guys, yes, we could probably make a case. It's just going to cost you an extraordinary amount of money. And I said, all right, let's do it, man. Let's go for it. So I'm lucky enough that I could afford to pay for it. But it was a long process. It was like a 2-year process. And then I think now that we have our green cards, I think it's 4.5 years. Someone told me I can apply for citizenship in like 4.5 years. So I would be happy to do it. To me, I'd be a dual citizen. I think that would be really cool. And, we'd love to stay in this country. So we'll see what happens. Who knows? But, like I said, I just fully expect our daughter to be suiting up for the red, white, and blue at the Pyeongchang Olympics in 2030 or something like that.
Good. Now, the prime minister right now, is that Justin Trudeau, that old handsome bastard? That's
right. That handsome, the son of former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. So it's like our version of the Kennedys now, but
for real. Does he have a family and everything?
He does. Yeah. Okay. He has an interesting story. So I don't know if this is interesting, but this kind of sums up the two countries. So there's a big controversy right now. His wife is a television personality, very beautiful woman from Quebec, and they have 3 kids. And there's a controversy because she's like a big spokesperson for, she suffered from bulimia. She's a big spokesperson for that, does a lot of charity work. And they had, I think, 2 or 3 nannies that were paid for by the government. And in Canada, man, that does not always go over well. I mean, I feel like Michelle Obama must have had at least 2 or 3 nannies somewhere in the house. I know her mom. I know her mom was living in the White House with them, but surely they must have had some help. But these 2 nannies, AJ, this has been like the biggest scandal on the planet. So just I think last week they said, all right, fine, we'll pay for one of the nannies or something like that. So we're the kind of country, we're a real penny pinching country, AJ. We're like, you can get 1 nanny, but you can't have 2 nannies.
Well, yeah, he should just say, hey, don't worry, this came out of my personal My personal account, guys.
Yeah,
That I
yeah,
get paid from you, taxpayers.
that's right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Good point.
Or just have like something big come up. I don't know what that big thing could be. Like you guys were supposed to go to have some big like nuclear arms talk, and Trudeau wasn't there. He's like, "Hey man, I only had one nanny. She was sick. I had to take care of the kids."
Had to take care of the kids. Couldn't go negotiate anything with the G8. Canada's in the G8, like this group of countries, the biggest economic powerhouses of the world. I feel like we could afford one more nanny for them, but I don't. I know my opinion's in the minority in that one. That's the other thing. When you move away from Canada, you better watch what you say about Canada, because suddenly you are not there anymore. You don't know what's going on up there, right? I don't know what's happening. So
especially
I gotta
LA.
use my words.
You're in LA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I can't
really
imagine.
sold out. Oh man, even now, Dan and I constantly get tweets like "sellouts." You guys are sellouts, because on one hand, Canadians are so proud of the people who came to LA. The Jim Carreys, the Michael J. Foxes, the Ryan Goslings. They're so proud of them. But on the other hand, it's a bit of a sellout situation, right? Because you've abandoned us to go, elsewhere. And so, it's a fine line you kind of walk. They're proud, but they're also a little bit pissed at the same time.
Well, how do they feel about Nickelback then?
Oh, man. How does the world feel about Nickelback? I mean, I love those guys. I mean, they're from my home province of Alberta. So I'm one of those guys where if you're from my home province, I'm cheering for you no matter what. But they're a very divisive band, but they were as big up there as they were anywhere. And I don't know. I'm not sure if they'll ever be that big again. They seem to be a punchline to so many jokes now. That's a thing.
Yeah, for whatever reason, whether you like it. I mean, music is so like subjective anyway.
It
Why who jumped on the Nickelback bandwagon to make them like the butt of all the jokes?
And they're such nice guys. Like they're not out there, saying racist shit or getting drunk and driving and killing. Like they're not doing anything bad. All they're doing is just making music, and people apparently have decided that they're gonna say that their music is the music that's the worst on the planet. Hey, at least they're actually playing their fucking instruments. Sorry to curse. At least they're playing their own instruments. At least they're writing their own songs. I don't know. I defend those guys. I don't quite get it either.
I think they should turn into it. They should own it and just embrace the hate. And then all of a sudden they would make this crazy turnaround. And I mean, whatever. Who cares? I could care less about Nickelback either way. But still, I think they should embrace it.
I'm the same way. And I think they kind of have, in the sense that, like, I've never really heard them even talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, all they do is just drive their amazing cars, live in their amazing homes, and just live life, right? Like, so I don't know who's the winner here. I think Nickelback is the winner.
I do. Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's like that. Have you seen the tall Russell Brand movie and Jonah Hill? And Jonah Hill keeps trying to hand him his tapes.
To the Greek.
Yeah, I just went about living my life when he
yeah, exactly.
Did you listen to my tape? You listen to my demo?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, we always wonder, like, man, that must really be affecting Nickelback. It's like, no, that's not affecting them at all. They're fine.
Now, transitioning out of that quickly, did you, with the process from when you left Canada to come to Fox or FS1, whatever you want to call it, I know it's all under the same banner. How long did that process take? Because you guys launched the new channel, the new network, FS1. Yeah. Was that years in the making?
It was a year. We were working at the London Olympics in 2012 for a Canadian network, and got a call out of the blue from Fox, sort of like, we're going to launch this network. We've seen your stuff. We like it. Would you guys come down? And it was like, maybe. It's just like so weird when you think you're on this path in life. We were settled, we had families, we were happy, we were big stars in Canada, everything was going great. We weren't even thinking about anything different. But then you sort of get this opportunity and you think, well, what I did was I saw Kelly Oxford. She's a Canadian author, and she had a book out, and her husband said something that it just hit me so hard. It was like, he said, we were living in Calgary, and we got an offer to move to LA to write. And we said to ourselves, we don't want to be like, they were in their 40s, like Dan and I were. And they're like, are we going to be 80 years old in Calgary and think when we were 40, we could have moved to LA for even a few years, even 3 years, just for the hell of it, just for a few years, just to enjoy that sunshine? Are we not going to do that? Are we not going to kick ourselves when we're 80 years old? And that just stuck with me. I was like, yeah, like, what the hell am I doing? We could always go back, right? Canada will always be there for us. The healthcare will be there. Justin Trudeau will be there. Nickelback will be there. Avril Lavigne will be there. We can always go back. But yeah, so it wasn't that hard of a decision, but it was a long process just to, get the work visas, get it all sorted out, get the contracts done. You know how it is. So it took a while, but once we got down here, it just was like a whirlwind when it started. And, it was amazing to see because Canada, the networks are great, but they just don't have the money that the American networks do. So we get down here and it's like suddenly we're working on the Fox movie lot where they're shooting movies and New Girl and Bones and all these shows. And we're running by, the Sons of Anarchy are like at the cafeteria with us in their full like gear. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is the craziest thing ever. So it was definitely a culture shock when we arrived. But I will say this, they've been, and this is going to sound like I'm continuing to push for a new contract, but I will say this, everyone's been amazing to us since we've been down here, and they've treated us like they're the ones who are lucky to have us here as opposed to the opposite. So I can't say enough good things, just not just about the execs, but I mean just everybody, the hair and makeup, everybody's just been so, I think it's what they say, they call it the Fox family. It's like people stay at Fox a long time because it's a nice place to work. You're on a movie lot in the middle of Hollywood. The sun's shining every day, and people treat you well, and you get to cover NFL and you get to cover Major League Baseball. We've got great properties, so overall, pretty fun place to work.
I was recently out there, and you're right, and that's something that people at other networks speak about as well, because people would think there's some huge networks out there that don't take care of people very well and treat them like, hey, you're lucky to be here. We don't care about you. And when you got to Fox, it was funny. I was out there doing the NFL Network morning show thing, and they're awesome there. They treat me great. But the Cole Wright, who is the host there, is really, really good. He'd worked at Fox and ESPN. He's been everywhere. And he's like, oh, man, he's like, Fox, it'll be great, because I was going over later that afternoon. And he was saying how that you get out there and they'll give you a menu, like 3 different menus. You can order food, all this stuff before our shows. And he said, I think they've cut back a little bit on it. But I showed up and went to like the avocado room before I had some meetings there and did like Cowherd and then your guys' show. And the first thing I did, I sat down and she's like, oh, here, you're going to have like a lunch meeting. So here, just circle what you like out of this. And there's like 4 different pieces of paper with all different food. I'm like, this is amazing. I love it here.
Yeah, you're so right. Cole used to work with us, such a good guy. It's, I don't know if it's because it's in LA or just the way Fox has always done it, but yeah, they really take care of their people here. And you're right. They have cut back a little bit, but all TV is kind of cut back a little bit. But in general, they still treat you pretty darn well.
Now, do they buy you your yerba mate tea that you drink during your show?
I'm so glad you brought up the yerba mate. We're like determined to be the national spokespeople for yerba mate. They do. In fact, well, that's a great example. Like if I say something like, Mark, who's our production assistant, if I say, Mark, what we really like is yerba mate, the next day in my office, the fridge will be full of yerba mate. That's how great these people are here. It's fantastic. So yeah. To answer your question, we are fully addicted to yerba mate, and we will continue to support that product as long as it's on the shelves.
Regardless, whatever brand it is that you guys had, I had it out there with you on your show. They should send you just cases and cases.
They should. They don't, but they should. But as long as Fox is getting it for us, I'm all good with that. My favorite thing, honestly, AJ, about the job, this is going to sound really shallow. In Canada, I mean, we had a wardrobe. We'd go to a really nice suit store and we get a couple of suits, bring them home, and we'd have to pick it out. Here, they have a wardrobe department. So the wardrobe department picks, like, as a guy, and I don't know how you are with clothes. Like, I like wearing nice clothes. I'm not like your brother-in-law Brady Quinn, where I'm like decked out all the time. But I like, I'm like every guy. I like looking good, but I don't want to shop. Like, I don't want to go and shop for those clothes. My dream as a guy, and this is such a stereotypical thing to say, but I'm just going to say it. My dream is to just have my closet filled with cool clothes that someone else much cooler than me picks out. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's the dream of every guy, almost every guy on the planet.
Any guy would love that.
Right? As it turns out, that's exactly what happens here. We come here to the studio like today. I go into my dressing room and there's a suit, shirt, tie, pocket square, tie bar,
MeUndies out there.
MeUndies,
Yep.
all hanging on the back of my door in my dressing room, picked out for me, ready to go. Shoes and socks, all picked out, sitting there waiting for me. It's the greatest thing ever.
Wait, so did you bring all these suits in with you?
No. I asked them if they wanted me to bring in my old suits, and they said, no, we're taking care of that now.
So did you get measured, and then all of a sudden they just make suits for you that show up?
You get measured, you get, Taylor comes in, measures you, checks you out, and then all of a sudden, suits show up. Beautiful. It's an amazing thing. I don't know if it'll last forever, but God, man, it's been a great ride while we've had it.
Wow. But so you're saying this really interests me. I'm sorry. I'm really got to dig into this one.
Yeah.
So you're saying you get measured and the guy's going to make you custom suits. And I've heard places like I've done shows where I've been there for multiple days and they say, hey, bring 3 or 4 suits out and then you leave them here and we'll pick out what we think you should wear that day. But they're my suits that I have to take home. You're saying you just got measured and then bam, the suits and everything appeared.
That's right. And I would imagine that here, for example, say you were doing, 1 week on the NFL on Fox or something like that. I would imagine they might say to you, bring a few suits. Well, I imagine that would be the case here as well. But for those of us doing a 5 days a week show where you need multiple clothes, here's another great example. If we have to travel, they will get the suits already in suit bags, and then they will take pictures. They will take pictures of everything and detail how everything should go together. So this tie with this shirt and this suit, they make it idiot proof for guys like us. It's incredible. It's one of the truly great things. And, the relationship, for instance, Michael Strahan, has a great relationship with Victoria Trilling, who is the head of the Fox wardrobe department, to the point where if Michael is on the Kelly and Michael show or Good Morning America, she is now personally handling all his wardrobe for those shows as well. Because, man, once you have someone who knows what the hell you like to wear, you stick with them forever, right?
God, that's awesome. So do you take these suits home? Like, do you slowly take one? I would be taking them. I'd be pilfering them back home for whenever I feel like they're like, hey, these guys are going to can me someday. I'm going to have these suits.
I probably should, but no, I haven't done that. I have no other occasion to wear a suit outside of work. I mean, maybe a wedding. But if I said to them, guys, I have a wedding to go to this weekend, I guarantee they pack a suit for me, and that's just like so shady, but darn it, I'll probably do it anyway.
What do you mean? That's awesome. You guys are like J-Lo. That's what J-Lo has.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We're the J-Lo of sports TV. That should be our slogan.
Yeah, but the thing is, J-Lo has to pay those people tons and tons of money. Yours is taken care of by Fox.
That's true. Though J-Lo does look a little bit better than we do.
The better looking, like you're saying, segue into one more thing. It wasn't Justin Trudeau, I don't think, that did it, but when you guys left Canada and TSN, didn't the Prime Minister tweet that this was like a great loss and they flew all the flags at half staff that day?
Yeah, the Maple Leaf went down to half staff, and but you're right. Yeah, that the Prime Minister did tweet that was sad that we were leaving. That was the most shocking thing of our lives, I think, because not just that, but just the reaction from across the nation. You know how it is, like you're doing well. We go, even now, we go all across Canada and people, know who we are. And we knew we were popular, but we didn't expect this mass outcry of people saying, I can't believe they're leaving and you need to come back. And even now, we were just in Calgary we actually spoke to the University of Calgary football team alumni, and the whole room, is like, when are you guys coming back? I think everyone just thinks we're on like some weird vacation, like we've gone to the desert and we're like tripping out on psychedelics or something, and like eventually we'll come back after we get this out of our system. So it's nice. It's a lovely gesture, right? It's nice to be wanted, nice to be missed and all that. So we'll always have a home there, that's for sure.
So they were sad, they weren't mad that you were leaving.
A little bit of, you know how it is. I mean, there's haters.
Probably
There's
98% sad and a couple people, oh, sellouts, I'll never come.
Yeah.
I'll never turn them back on. If they come back to TSN,
Totally.
I'm not watching them boycotting.
That's right. You know, you nailed it. I mean, it was mostly people just sad and, you know, happy for us, but really sad that we were leaving. And definitely a good chunk, probably higher than 2%, more like 20% of people who just thought we had sold out for the money. And, hey, man, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to take care of your family, and the money's nice, and it's American dollars, and our dollar up in Canada is in the tank. But really, it really wasn't about money. It was like I said to you before. It was coming to that realization, like, man, I don't want to be an old guy and think I could have lived in SoCal for a few years and just had a great time. Because honestly, AJ, if it ends like next year, if it really does, I will never regret coming down here. It's been a blast. Everything about it has just been awesome.
That's good to hear, man. I know you've written 2 books, Anchor Boy, and then what's your other one, number 2?
Number 2, I couldn't come up with a good name for the second one. And I wrote the first one, and I wrote a story that was really popular. The most popular story in my first book, I was at my sister's house over Christmas, and she served some crab's legs. She'll never forgive me for telling the world this story. She served crab legs, and I got violently ill, like violent diarrhea. And actually, at one point, was so sick that I was sitting on the floor of my parents' bathroom. Later that night, they took me back to their house. I'm sitting on the floor of their bathroom, and my mom opened the door, and I literally like shit my pants in front of my mother. I was 36 years old.
Wait, did she surprise you, or like?
She just opened the door, and I was like, I couldn't help it. It was like, at that point, it was uncontrollable. And I literally, like, it was like a loud, like, you know, like, right in front of her. And she just stared at me, like, and I stared at her. So as this is happening, we're like staring at each other like we're across a poker table. And all I could think of at the end of that was to say, I'm sorry. And she was like, it's okay. And she just walked out. And anyway, this story was so popular that I knew I had to write more stories about myself, crapping myself. And so number 2 seemed like an appropriate title for the second book.
I love it. Now, you do speaking gigs as well.
Yeah, Dan and I do a lot of speaking gigs in Canada, and it's fun, you know. It's so funny, though, you know, and I'm sure you've done some speaking, too, and I don't know how you feel about it compared to, like, the podcast and TV appearances. You know, I've been doing TV for so long that it's just natural to me. You know, it's speaking in front of a camera is just a natural thing. It's different when you get in front of an audience. And I think people just assume that, oh, well, you're on TV. Why speaking to 200 people at the U of C alumni dinner should be no problem. But it's a totally different thing, right? Like it's not, you know, it is somewhat scripted, but the best speeches aren't that scripted, right? They're a little more off the cuff. So it's been almost like I'm learning a new skill over the course of time doing some of these speeches. It's been really enjoyable. So, but Dan and I have kind of a routine down. We're almost like the Smothers Brothers or the Sklar Brothers, you know, where one guy will tell a joke and the other guy will tell a joke. And, we make fun of Donovan McNabb a lot. For some reason, Donovan really gets it bad. So I know he can take it. He's a good guy. So yeah, no, we have fun doing that. It's pretty good.
Do you do any of these, solo, just by yourself?
Very rarely solo. And when I do, I get, where's Dan constantly. So it's almost like there's no point. If someone tries to book a solo, we usually try to find out a way to make it work for both of us.
Are you guys attached forever, or do you ever think you guys would go do your own thing?
I got in trouble. Someone asked me that in an interview I did recently, and I said, you know, right away I was like, oh no, there's no way we'll work together forever. You know, eventually we'll find something else. Dan, you know what it was? It was we were interviewed separately, and I answered that way, and then Dan answered, no, we'll be together forever. Like, there's no way So Dan was a little upset about that. Not really, but he thought that was funny. So I don't know. It's a good question. You know, I know Dan's always wanted to do hockey play-by-play. And
that was a ballsy move, man.
Yeah, I mean, he did it for junior hockey years ago. He was really good at it, and it was something he always wanted to do. And I always encourage him, you know, to try to do it. You know, there's been gigs that have come up in the NHL, and I've always like, just send a tape in. You never know, right? Like, I mean, because I just think if you grew up a hockey fan like we did, you know, hockey play-by-play is still kind of the pinnacle, right? It's for us who grew up with that sport. There's just something amazing about calling a live game, and that sport's so fast. And if you can pull that off, it's an amazing gig. So we'll see. Maybe I'll do that someday. But honestly, we'd really, it's like you said, we've done 3 different versions of this show in 3 years. It would be nice if we could just stick with this version and maybe ride it out for a little while, and try to make it work. So hopefully we can do that.
See, I think what you guys, I asked you on the when I was on your show about your set. I said, this is great. It has like that Watch What Happens Live feel with Andy Cohen, who just, I'm sure he does gigantic numbers. That dude makes tons of cash now, basically runs Bravo. Yeah. And I feel like do you think that is like more in your wheelhouse, that like small, intimate studio? And it seemed like even the producers, the camera guys, everyone in the room seemed to just enjoy it and have fun. And you all seem to get along so well.
Totally agree, and you nailed it. So, for example, on the old show, we were in, you've seen the NFL on Fox with Strahan and Bradshaw and those guys, and that's a huge, beautiful studio. We were in a studio like that, this massive studio, and while I can appreciate how nice it was, just never felt quite right. I mean, it just felt a little too big, as stupid as that might sound. The thing we liked about Andy's set, and the reason we wanted a set like that, is for the reasons you just said. There's this intimate feel. You almost feel like you're I know Andy calls it the clubhouse, right? Like you feel like you're hanging out with someone you actually genuinely like. It's an intimate conversation. And we have a small crew now. Everyone gets along great. There's nothing worse in television than not getting along with the person you're working with on television, because I'm sure you played with guys you don't get along with. I've worked with guys I don't get along with. But it's not like a camera is on you all the time. In TV, if you don't get along with the person you're doing TV with, everyone can tell, right? It's kind of obvious. Ask our friend Michael Strahan about Kelly Ripa. It's pretty obvious those two didn't like each other toward the end. So that's just a nightmare. There's nothing worse than disliking someone and then having to pretend you like them for TV purposes. So the fact that not only Dan and I get along, but the whole crew gets along, man, I've worked in this business long enough to know that is a pretty awesome thing, and better count your blessings when you have a situation like that.
I think so. I think you guys are you have a good thing going. It just felt right. It felt authentic to you guys when I was in there, when I was in studio. And watching on TV, it kind of comes through as well through the camera.
Thanks, man. I think, like I said, people have tried to do sports and comedy for so long, and it's like it just never seemed to work. And I think we've finally hit upon something that kind of works now, and hopefully we can keep it going. And the biggest compliment we get is, compliments like you just said. We want the guests to come in and feel comfortable instantly. We want them to realize, A, we're not good enough broadcasters to intimidate anyone. B, we're not good enough interviewers to intimidate anyone. And really, we just want to have a conversation. We don't want it to come across forced or scripted. All due respect to all the great sideline reporters of the world, we don't want to ask those questions. We want to just have a conversation like you and I are having right now. I think people connect with that more. So yeah, it's going pretty well. Hopefully it continues to catch on.
I think so. Have you ever, you going to try to slide into Strahan's old spot and at least guest host, get some of those guest host auditions with Kelly?
I would love to. We'll have to see.
You'd be awesome, man. Who's your agent? Throw him out there. Throw your name in there.
Nick Khan, agent to the stars. I think he's everybody's agent. He's an agent to so many people in our business that I'm not 100% sure he remembers he's my agent. But no, I'd love to do something like that. I feel like in the case of that show, though, I feel like that's already locked down. I feel like Anderson Cooper is the guy. Like he's already decided he wants to do it. Kelly likes working with him. He will know his place, because I feel like now whoever steps in that chair has to be very, very aware that there is a queen on that set, and she is the queen, not Anderson Cooper.
Is that a known thing in the business?
I don't know. I didn't think she.
I just got your joke too, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
My bad. Sorry to run. I just ran right over the punchline. My bad.
I don't know. And that's the thing. Like, I also think she kind of had a point too. Like, her point was, for example, if it was Regis in the old days and Regis's co-host announced half an hour before they were about to do a show that she was leaving the show and hadn't told Regis probably would be kind of pissed, right? He'd kind of be like, dudes, can you maybe give me a couple of days notice on this one just to process it a bit? Like, give me a little respect. And that was kind of her point. I understand it. I'm trying to see both sides, and I see her point. At the same time, once that had all been established, the fact that she kind of was taking swipes at Strahan on air and talking about his divorces and stuff, like, that was offside. I was like, and you say your piece, you say you're pissed, and then you end it, right? You don't carry that grudge on TV and make everyone uncomfortable for days afterward. And obviously that's why they decided they were going to do a whole long thing, right? He was going to be on for months, and they were just like, maybe we just better end this now, because this is just going to get worse.
That was after that it came out that he was leaving the show, right? That
That's
she
right.
started to kind of talk about, they were talking about something about you've been divorced, and you could tell it kind of took him by surprise.
Oh, he was shocked. I mean, that's the thing with Michael. The guy is like such a pro, because, man, like, that was pretty harsh. And yeah, you're right. You could tell he was not thrilled about it, but he just let it kind of slide and kept going. And the only thing with Michael is, we were saying this the other day, now he's doing this, what is it, $10,000 pyramid game show? Like, Michael, you don't have to do all the shows. Like, you can just do NFL on Fox and Good Morning America, and then just maybe take a day off and just go for dinner or something, or go to the club or go to the restaurant. Like, you don't have to work 7 days a week. He is working his ass off. I don't know if it's because he got divorced a couple of times and he has to pay alimony or what, but man, he is working his ass off. And by the way, nicest guy in the world too, with all the success. Just a great guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. Super classy guy from the jump. I know he always has been, but I think you could do it, man. I think you could sit in that seat. Yeah, like you said, you're going to have to be the beta to her alpha. But are you willing to do that?
If for that gig and that money, my friend, I'm definitely willing to be the beta. I'll be the delta. I'll keep moving down the Greek alphabet wherever I have to.
She did come out like she was like the Godfather after everything kind of went up, and so like it was so awkward because I watched the clips where Michael stood just a little bit off stage and watched her. She comes out solo and it addresses it and says like apologies. She didn't say like I apologize, or she didn't like. No. She said apologies have been made. Yeah, I'm like, geez, you're not messing around.
It was weird. I mean, I think I talked about Regis, but to me, and I don't know for sure, I feel like Regis would have come out the day he learned about that news, done the show, and voiced his concerns privately off air. I mean, that's how most people handle their business. The way she did it in such a public manner, taking the days off because she was sick or she had vacation. Yeah, that was all a little bit like, all right, come on. Because the thing is, when you do something like that, you suddenly you're not sympathetic anymore. Like nobody thinks, oh, well, poor Kelly. Like, if you are quiet and you ride it out and keep doing your job, then you're the good guy, or in this case, good girl. And then everyone loves you. But if you kind of make a stink on your own, then suddenly everyone's like, wait a minute, you're getting paid $7 million a year to do an hour-long show in which you get handed the questions 2 minutes before you go on air with no prep. Like, it's not rocket science. It's a great, great gig, and not everyone can do it, but it's not rocket science. You're not in the middle of Kandahar, like, with a camera guy and missiles around you. So, put it in perspective a little bit. Yes, your ego's bruised a little bit. Yes, maybe you deserve a little more respect. But I just realized as I'm ranting like this, AJ, that I've ruined any chance of sitting alongside Kelly on that show.
I don't think so. I think this could add some drama that would bring the ratings.
The best would be is if I did get a chance to do it, thanks to my super agent Nick Kahn.
Yes.
And then only to have Kelly's people find this podcast and play it for her, and then have her immediately squash that idea.
Like day one, like you're in the green room, you're getting your makeup. Oh, let's have a good show. You go fist bump, and then all of a sudden they show her this.
They show her that, and suddenly, like, Neil Patrick Harris is called in from whatever Broadway show he's doing, and I'm done.
Oh, man. Well, we'll scrub it from the internet if it gets that far.
All right, sounds good, buddy.
Can you do that? I don't think you can do that anymore.
I don't think so.
Yeah. All right, Jay. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Anchor Boys #2. Those are your books. We can book you for live speaking gigs. What's your Twitter name?
Oh, it's at Onrait, at JAYONRAIT.
Big reason I asked you that is because I wanted you to say your last name again.
I knew you were going to say that.
Because I was going to say I just started thinking in my head, Onrait, what the hell?
Yeah. It's that's Twitter is where I handle most of my stuff. So you can check me on Twitter. And yeah, we have a lot of fun. But check out the TV show on FS1 because it's a sensation. And then you can tell all your friends you were into that show first.
Yes, 11 Eastern. Correct.
You got it on FS1. You got it.
Okay. All right, Jay. Thanks again, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man.
Bye.
We're glad you could join us for today's conversation. After you subscribe to the show, head over to thehawkcast.com or reach out to AJ directly on Twitter at @officialAJHawk to recommend future guests that will help us inspire people to keep talking. Thanks again, and we look forward to speaking with you next time on the HawkCast.